Now let's welcome, well, me, to the stage to explain what the Azure CLI is and also the Azure Resource Manager. Fancy a coffee? I want you to meet my best friend in Azure world, the Azure command line interface. To get slightly technical for just a minute, let's cover in broad terms what happens when you make a selection, change, or button press in the Azure portal. Say you want to create a new virtual machine. And let's say this cup of coffee right here is the virtual machine. There are multiple ways that you can create this virtual machine or cup of coffee. You could use the Azure portal. You select the resource, you fill in the details, and you click submit. This is like pressing a button on the cafeteria coffee machine, like here. And voila, you have a cup of coffee. Then there is the Azure CLI, which let's say is, well, this plunger here. It looks very different, but in the end, the same result, a cup of coffee. Just like the CLI looks very different from the portal, because it is a text-only entry tool, also known as a command line interface. An interface you only type commands into. Makes sense, right? So the end result is the same as using the portal though. In the CLI, you use a command like azvm create, all typed out, to create a VM. In the portal, you use the mouse to select the options. It's just another way to make the same cup of coffee, whether you prefer to press a button, use a plunger, or maybe even hire a barista. It's completely up to you. You end up with a cup of coffee. There are of course other ways that you can make a cup of coffee or create a VM, such as through the various developer interfaces or coffee machines, but that is further than we're going to go in this lecture. The CLI is a tool used a lot by Azure professionals for a few reasons. It doesn't change. The text commands stay the same and can be reliably reused. The commands are structured very logically, so once you know the structure, you can pretty much use all of the commands sort of by guessing. It is cross-platform, so it works on Windows, Mac, and Linux. Because commands change rarely, you can automate actions using the Azure CLI commands. This is really handy when you have to do the same thing over and over again. And it is easier to keep track of who did what with the CLI commands as you can log them. Use source control, your Jira task, or any other project management tool. So it's a great idea to be familiar with the CLI even if you plan to use the portal for most things. You install the Azure CLI by a simple download from its website. Check out the resources for this lecture. Alright, next up, another tool.